Delicious.
Something delicious. That's what you want a nice Sunday evening. Having a good time, eating well, cooking well. And good evening, everyone, and welcome to this is our third creative writing brainstorm session, and we have Lord Commander Dunn of the Queen's Army and Glib Facsimile. Hey, Glib, you just popped in. Where'd you come from? What happened to you?
I just made a cheeseburger. It's very delicious.
I can barely hear you, sir, but I know you're there.
Hello. Sorry.
Hey.
There we go.
Okay.
Just made a cheeseburger. It was delicious. That's what I said.
Wow, cheeseburger. You're obviously not signed up to any franchises yet, but I'm happy to know that the Americans in the chat are knowing what to do with their burgers and cheese. So that's
damn straight. Before the whole like lockdown thing, I bought like 3 pounds of ground beef and just froze it so I can have a burger anytime I need to.
That's a lot of beef. That is a lot.
And what's funny is I bought a pound or two of ground turkey too, so I have options. That's how American I am. I can have
ground turkey. That was like all set for Easter, buddy. You're like, oh
yeah, I know. I had all the people that came over for Easter, right? I celebrate. It was just me and Jesus this time.
Oh
Nice.
boy. Well,
how you guys doing?
I'm great. First, I have to address this wonderful story from Genghis Khan. Yes, I did, because you want to know why? Because that thing was boring as hell.
It was a little boring. Yeah, I agree.
Those games are really, really boring. It's like, oh, this is the best one. He's got to watch it. Okay, I sat there for 2 streams, bored out of my mind. Nothing happened. While Literature Devil made all these voices, and I was like, okay, this is. Am I 4? Am I 5? What's going on in this stream?
Sexual Literature Devil. That's not what I signed up for.
He was having fun, and I guess everyone on the stream was having fun. And there were things I didn't understand, but nothing happened in the goddamn game. I was so bored. So, yeah, not going on that anymore. Anyway, we're doing stage 3 or episode 3 of our brainstorming. And I want to show people chapter 1 or how I lay stuff out. The stuff on the left is what we talked about before. So we have all some of the plot points, what's happening with the bad guys and that sort of thing. That's fine. That's all good stuff. But I'm really concerned about the right, because the right is where I can take any story and just plan it out. And it doesn't really matter what the plot points are. I don't care about the details. All I care about are my characters, what their public problems are, like if they need a key or they're too weak or this or that, what their weaknesses are, who's attacking their weakness, what is this shortcoming toward, meaning if it's a key, what door is it? Is it a door coming up later? What is the problem there? What do we learn about their past? And this helps in understanding their background. So we have to understand where they're coming from. Are we treading new ground? Are we going back to their childhood? What's the issue we're bringing up? And then we're addressing a second shortcoming, which is pointing to the next plot point. And I can just copy and paste this for scene 1, we've seen 2, we've seen 3, and it's all the same. So I can do this for any story. Mm-hmm. Now, before I do that, what I want to also talk about is what journey stories are like. So we can look at the hero's journey. And I don't even know exactly if I got these right. But if we're introducing characters in the start, we have a frame. We don't need a frame. These are just options for us in scene 1. So we could have some sort of call to action. So there's all these people coming together for some reason. Maybe some organization is calling on people. There's one calling on another who calls on another. There's some standard setting that everyone's familiar with. And then everyone gets out of their comfort zone. And then we have a major problem is introduced. So why are they coming together? That's the problem. Very simple, straightforward stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, after we get all the characters together, we have all the players addressed. We then throw in a wrench. So we have this thing that everyone wants. We throw it in the works. Things break up. And then that's when we go, oh, now we really need to get going. We have to do this thing. And there's all these people who don't want to do it. They're like, oh, this is silly, or I'm going to get killed, or whatever the problem is. And that's when we get to the threshold, which we see in Heroes' Journeys, where Ray has to leave the planet, or there's something that's causing them to stay behind, and they have to adapt to that conflict and go. And that is when it's abundantly clear you have to do it now. This is the thing everyone has to go for. So the desire or the plot, their plots, it's all tying together right there. And then the middle is just whatever you want to do with that complication. You want to have friends, you want to have enemies, all the gauntlet that people have to run through. And that is when the plot is fully addressed. the character actually gets what they want, the bad guys get what they want or don't get what they want. And voila, that's when we have the actual climax where people have to force to make a choice, to change as a character, and that's when they become someone else, which is the kind of the point of all of this. All the stuff on the left is to have this character grow, and the only way they grow is by their weakness being whittled away until their new persona has come about in the climax, and then we go back to the normal world. And that's a standard template for a journey story, a heist story, any sort of story where they have to get somewhere and do something and change along the way. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to start with Finn and what we've learned from Finn and the characters here. So he is cowardly and selfish. And what I did with that is I added guilt with that. So, so my thought with chapter 1 was that guilt is his main thing, and then he grows out of that at the climax. So in chapter 2, it's redemption. So he's sorry for what he's done in his backstory, and then in chapter 3, he becomes an actual hero. He becomes an actual leader. So he's no longer holding on to the past, even though he's still trying to redeem himself, but now he's trying to be something for other people. He's no longer being selfish. So guilt would be his primary weakness here. And again, this could be changed. It doesn't really matter to me. So again, if we have another scene with Finn, we have to show who's attacking that. So again, we could put in the main villain. That would be the seductress. But it could also be Ray. It could be whomever. It doesn't matter who we want, so long as a character is attacking him on his weakness. Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
So plot points are where we carry this stuff over from the left. So the introduction. How should we introduce these characters? There's lots of ways, guys. We could have the Republic or some sort of organization say, okay, we need people to come to this point in time and space to figure out this problem between the nobles, between the two empires, between the development in space where there's a space station where this whole weapon is going to being launched. So it could be towards that. It could be towards something else. It could be someone has stolen some plans. We have to investigate. It could be a mystery. So it could be any of these things. It doesn't really matter. So we'll pick someone stole some. There's some security breach. We need investigators. We need our tech specialists. We need everyone from everywhere to come by. It's kind of like the government's asking for help and they send out contracts and everyone just calls and comes in. It could be something like that. It could be a framed narrative. It could be a prophet. It could be an oracle. He's like, oh, I foresee this person coming and I foresee that person coming. Like imagine the Jedi have just oracles who are looking for younglings. That's their entire role, is to find new Jedi recruits. And you have like the one oracle, he finds people like across the galaxy. It's like, oh, there's going to be a child born in 2 months' time. We must seek them out, and you're going to go find them. So we have like people who see them, and then we have people who go get them. Mm-hmm. So that could be a good reason for Rey coming together. Her general role is to go find new recruits for the temple or something like that.
Yeah, sure. That one works.
Yeah. So Rey's over here. What is she trying to do? Her plot is actually just put plot in there. May as well. I forgot to do that. Plot. Get recruit. Finn is. Well, we don't even know what Finn's role is here. Chickens out, runs away. That was his backstory. Watches his friends get killed. Tries to save himself. Mm-hmm. Put on enemy costume. So his job is to infiltrate. Sounds like he's infiltrating something. Infiltrate organization. We don't know exactly what organization, but he's infiltrating something. So we talked about him getting caught, putting on a disguise. and off he goes. Right?
Yeah. I wish Literature Devil were here. This is a little difficult.
Yeah, no, he's big on the Finn storyline. I know he's fleshing that out before. Da-da-da.
Yeah, of them, I think that my fascination is mostly with Rey, mostly with the other Force users in this.
Sure. So again, we focus on Rey. What's so special about Rey? Where is she? There she is. Okay, so she's prideful and she's arrogant. So let's put that in there. So she's prideful. We'll just put pride. It's fine. So who's going to be attacking her? That's a good question. It's going to be one of the villains, or it could be Finn. It doesn't really matter who. It's Seductress as well.
So do we want her to have lost her arm by this point?
We can certainly have her as a fleshed out character with a backstory for sure.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. So she's already lost her arm, I suppose.
Already?
That's a possibility. I was just wondering.
I thought that it would be good if she lost her arm to the hammer.
Sure.
Because then it would be like, I like pushing things out of the backstory into the forestory if we can, and then anything that's relevant that we can't fit in, that gets thrown into the backstory.
Okay, so if you're going to leave her arm where? In the climax or somewhere in the middle?
Probably somewhere in the middle so that she could come back with it.
All right, let's put it here. That's fine. So halfway through, she's going to find out how weak she is, and boom, she loses her arm, nearly loses her life.
Yes.
Brilliant. I like it.
Scene 2. Rey, investigate security breach. Shortcoming. We're not sure what the shortcoming is yet. It could be a security issue. She needs clearance. She needs to do this or that. There's all sorts of things. But okay, she gets attacked by the hammer. Boom. Plot point, same as this one. So her plot is she has a desire to go figure out this security breach, whatever happened. It could have been Finn. He could have been the security breach. We have no idea. That could have caused everyone else to come by.
Okay.
And the hammer, of course, is in the scene because he's over there. So we just copy him down. This could be his intro. Doesn't really matter. And his plot is to steal the plans. Or help steal the plans or help. Shortcoming, he is, do villains really need a shortcoming in the start? I guess we could introduce them, but they're not going to.
They're not really relevant yet. I can't, you know what I mean? I can't really think of anything.
Yeah, it could be like they're too sure of themselves. They're really cocky. Like Rey is like prideful, but not only is the hammer prideful, he's also really strong too. So there's good reason to be prideful.
He backs it up really well.
Exactly.
Maybe we see shades of their detrimental features, but they don't necessarily play into it yet.
Yeah, that's the great thing about a villain is that they mirror the dark side of the heroes, and they're just fully established. So like, they're already they've already had their own story, so they've gone through some trials already.
Yes.
Okay, so back in reveal with Rey is that she remembers him from Temple. I don't know where can we. She remembers this guy, so she's terrified of this guy. Has flashback, all sorts of things here. Has memory, recognizes Hammer. Okay, that's good enough. One of those two. Doesn't really matter.
Right.
Okay, so Finn. I think, well, actually, let's work with you, Lord Commander, or Lord Captain. You wanted to talk about these guys more. So we have to introduce the wild card, Luke and Leia, somehow. And we don't know yet.
So there's a couple of things. So based on what you have said, the wild card is a son of a legacy character, but he doesn't have any powers.
Right.
So we could have a couple of things. We could have him start leaving at this point, or we could have it so that he is already established himself as a criminal or whatever. He's
not a criminal. He's a rogue.
A rogue. Okay, rogue.
I think that he should be, like when Batman, not Batman, but Bruce Wayne leaves before he's Batman, and he's just like going around the world learning shit. That's what I think of his stage is. He doesn't really, because these characters are what, in their early 20s. That's where, isn't that
they're
what
established, but they're not experienced. So they're 20, 25, could be 30 around there.
But isn't it? What are the characters in the sequel trilogy's age?
Oh, they're young. Yeah. Well, they're played as being young, but I know Adam's a bit old.
Wow, Rey is supposed to be 19 in the Force Awakens? That doesn't make sense.
No.
That's BS.
Bit too young.
And Finn is supposed to be 23.
That's a bit better.
Okay. I'm just trying to contextualize this because if they, let's say the characters are like 24, 25, then I want to put the Luke son character more like closer to 30, like 29 or 28.
Sure.
I agree with Glib. That makes sense.
And so then in that case, he would be kind of on the end of his mastering whatever skills that he's not mastering, but like becoming competent enough to be confident in what he's doing. And now he wants to do something else. Maybe he hasn't gotten there yet. The way that I would introduce him is that if he's not directly going to Deus Ex Machina or step in some place where like Rey is at or something like that, then maybe after she gets injured, they go looking for somebody else to help them, and he's the one that can help.
So,
okay, how about we introduce him earlier and then we bring him back later? How's that?
Sure.
Okay. One idea is that he's doing the job of his dad. Like, say again, I keep going back to the organization needs help, so they send out this general distress or request, and the mercenaries from Luke are like, "Oh, this shit again? Oh God, fine. You said, hey son, go over there and go talk to him. Yeah, you're good with words. Go." He's like, "Yeah, whatever, Dad." So he goes anyway, just for fun, and he just happens to be there because it's all about money. He's like, "What the hell are these guys going to give us?"
So the son is still working with the father?
He's on good terms, but he's not really working. He's just being as a representative because no one else wants to go. That's how we see the mercenaries. They're so reluctant to do anything because they're so strong. They don't give a shit. And it's just like, oh, they want to do an investigation to look for someone's stolen plans. Like, what the hell?
Okay. So are they're mercenaries?
Yeah. Luke
okay. Which guy?
Luke is in charge of the mercenary team, and his son is just sort of like nice with his dad, but he's not really working for him. But his dad's like, hey son, you're really good at talking and getting around bureaucracy.
So maybe he's could we make Luke's son a bounty hunter then?
Sure.
Is that too? Because like if we're just gonna mirror a lot of Star Wars stuff, maybe he could be like a Boba Fett style character.
You could be like a detective bounty, like a guy who does a lot of things. He's just like the go-to guy for everything.
Well, I'm just trying to think of one thing that would center him but make him distinct. Because if the Jedi are kind of independent, they're like it's like Big Boss and they're mercenaries.
Right.
And our character, I feel like ultimately the number one thing that's going to define the difference between Luke and his son is that it's Luke's son can never meet up with the Force expectations that are expected upon him. All he can do is like be his own man. So that's why I make him the wild card. He's off doing his own thing, and then he comes back around because he realizes that's part of his arc in this one, is that he can now help his father with something, whereas before he always needed help.
That's great. I don't mind that. So let's say he's an opportunist. He just does, he goes to an issue and he says, hey, I'm going to help you out because, I'm a businessman and maybe you need someone killed. Maybe you need this or that. But you know what? When it comes to like waging war, let me call my dad and he might want to talk to you about contracts. Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, glib, so based on what you're saying, I'm kind of getting an image of like Takeshi Kovacs in Altered Carbon. Is that similar to what you're thinking? Or
so like, I think I want to paint him more as like a noble, bright character, or more like you know what, Sanjuro, whatever the what's the character's name from Yojimbo?
Oh.
You know what I mean? The samurai with no name, basically, kind of thing. Where I like this idea of this kind of like smirking Han Solo-esque character that's out there, and he's built as his own little business that he's dependent on. And I mean, obviously, I'm known for the Western characters, so like the man with no name, the idea of a character that comes into town and then affects change, and then he does it for money. But underneath that is a moral imperative. It's just not public, kind of like Casablanca.
That's
like
good. Yeah, and Luke's organization could subcontract to him to make the contracts work. So they just we deal with like life and death stuff. You deal with all the money and contracts, setting stuff up.
I thought it would be cool if he was like I mean, it's cool because we have all of this other Force powered stuff that's going on, and then there are people that like Star Wars that like the more gunslinging stuff. So the idea of him being like a gunslinger, but like, you know how like in The Mandalorian they had the Bill Burr character and he had the thing on his shoulder for some reason or whatever. I thought it'd be really cool if our character had like dual pistols or something, but he could also have wrist blasters maybe, and just like all sorts of different gadgets, like Boba Fett kind of style. But like if he's on the good side and he's kind of lackadaisical about being involved in it, because I mean, his character seems to be on his own path. He's just brought into stuff every once in a while because he feels morally obligated to, or he can make money, which is reflections of the Han Solo character.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so he's going to pop into this general request from the government or whomever. And what's his weakness? Let's figure that out. He can't live up to his dad, so he's always trying to come into his own, but he's always held back because he always wants to say, hey, Dad, look what I just did. Or, I just traded this much stuff and I brokered peace with people because I got them drunk or whatever. Some crazy stories that his dad will get off on because his dad's old and just likes hearing stories. So
he's very self-conscious, it seems like. Is he self-conscious just around his dad, or is he just or is that just like well, never mind. It's just so basically like it's just around his dad that he's self-conscious. Is that correct?
That would be his major desire to try and get his dad to say, hey, son, good job, et cetera, et cetera. And because he's so estranged, he feels like he can never get it, but he's always trying because he's going around helping people. He's going around getting bounties. He's going around doing all these things. Yeah. And his dad sometimes calls on him. So it makes sense that he'd be like, oh, wow, I'm going to go help the Republic.
It'd be cool if it was like he doesn't like sometimes his dad calls on him to do something, but he never feels like it's enough. Because it's always something like, oh, thanks for throwing me a bone about this or that, but you never call me for anything that's really important. And then this time it's really important and it's only something that he can do. And maybe the character in that moment will then feel a new form of pressure that he had never felt before. Like, oh shit, I actually do have to live up to this thing. It's not something, and that off the cuff vibe that the character has, that facade maybe could go down a little bit, and that could be a moment of character interaction where we actually learn more about the weakness of this character and how he can become greater friends with the other protagonists.
Okay, that works fine. I just want to try and make his weakness a little different than everyone else because we have Finn he's scared. He's going to go into redemption arc, the second story.
Right.
So, and Ray is going to be the arrogance into humbleness. So the wild card is kind of like, I gotta be serious. He's too, I wouldn't say too laid back. Maybe is that it?
Well, like what would be like a character flaw of somebody that was going after that? And that, I'm thinking like Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly.
Yes.
I like Michael.
So he's headstrong. He sometimes overestimates his own skills. He thinks that he can do more than he can.
Untested. Like he knows he can do it. He just doesn't have his life experience to say, I can do all these amazing things.
Yes.
And there's no opportunity for that. Then all of a sudden he gets the opportunity. He's like, oh shit, I got to now do all this crap.
I also think it would be funny if we had a scene of him like seeing if he could do the Force and he still can't. And he's like, shit. Like that may be too cutesy, but
well, it could be a source of a little bit of like just normal humor. He's like, screw this, I can't do anything.
I think it would be
move, Rock, move.
I also like the idea of a kind of maybe he's like trying to you have a proactive character who wants to help people out, but then he finds out that he doesn't really have the tools necessary to help them out yet. Like he could be bad with relationships in that way.
So he wants to help, but doesn't know how.
He doesn't have he hasn't figured it totally yet. I don't know. I don't know if that fits. I'm trying to find a weakness of a roguish wild card character. It's usually commitment. It's usually something like that.
Yeah. It's usually something that he's like, I just flit around, life is capricious, but I'm going to now dedicate myself to something and be serious. So it's really about his desire to be his own person and then say, oh no, I got to actually believe in something.
I feel like you have the character that obviously he grew up when he was a little kid. He saw everything that his father could do and all this awesome power, and he just doesn't get that. And to me, that is like the biggest part of that psyche would be when I was up until I was a teenager, and I thought I was supposed to get my powers, and I didn't get my powers, and then now I don't know what to do with my life. And how can I be something when I'm already feel like I failed out of the gate?
Right.
What kind of that character arc to me seems to be one that's more about exploring who you are in a situation,
right? Finding some measure of worth outside of not having magic powers. So he's definitely going to be wanting to gain a lot of skills to kind of compensate for the fact that he's in a magical world, in a world that does at least like have people with powers. He wants to figure out ways to kind of compensate either through tech or skills.
Feel that.
The main thing here is when I say weakness, what I'm referring to is a hidden problem that he has with people.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And I feel like commitment is probably the best thing.
Yeah.
What kind of commitment?
That's weak.
What kind of commitment do you think? What kind of commitment?
To believe in something. He's kind of just sort of doing his own thing without a focus.
Yeah, because he doesn't, since he feels like the purpose that he was destined to, he can't engage in.
Right.
It's like, what does it even matter to them?
So he has all these general skills that he, because he gets into all these scenarios, and he could do lots of good stuff, but it's not anything he's focused on. So he's just sort of doing this and then doing that. So he's a bartender, he's a hitman, he's this. It doesn't really. He just does stuff because people need help. Yeah. So he's not established.
He could still be trained by his father, but he doesn't have any powers. So
maybe it's like he is, even though he doesn't necessarily have powers, like something about how, like, the mental process of how to do it stuck with him, like in terms of like hyper focus or whatever, has stuck
Exactly.
with him. And he's
spiritually he's there. He's just physically he's not there. So
He has
I
all the
feel
training, he just doesn't apply it.
and I feel like that. So, like you know how you have the trope of the wandering like Shaolin monk kind of situation, and he's kind of like it's almost like he's like a fallen angel monk kind of character who is out there, and his role could be mischievous
It
because
could be, yeah. He's sort of looking for a plot. He has all the motive. He has no motivation. So when he finds people in need, he's like, "Oh, I could help that, but why would I?"
so kind
Well,
of
it's
like a
for
Robin.
me. He's looking for, and I think that idea, the disconnected logic of life, and like he's simultaneously one with the fact that he can just be anywhere and he'll be comfortable or whatever, but he's also curious about how he can affect reality because he doesn't have the force.
And this is probably a specific problem in relation to what the Republic, or what the problem, like, so that someone stole stuff. So I'm a technical kind of guy. I can solve this problem. It's not a force problem. I can do this. Blah blah blah. He's being fulfilled in that sense. And then it gets big. And it gets over his head. He's like, "Oh shit, this is going to get a lot bigger than I thought."
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, I think. Never mind. I think basically it's, if I'm getting you right, it's like he's kind of traveling around trying to find like mundane things that he can solve.
Interesting things. I think that he should be like he should be like, oh, there's a beautiful woman that I want to sleep with. I'm gonna help her out or whatever, solve a problem, see what it is. Or he likes something, like he sees like a gun on a wall or something like that in a bar, and he's like, how can I get that? Like, I feel like he should be, you know what I mean, like a kind of cat-like character.
They're small scale, but they are important to him. Correct.
I feel like he should, like, yeah, like he's like setting up his own little things, like, and he gets pulled into a greater plot. And maybe the commitment thing is that he doesn't like getting involved in it because he can set up his own odds when he's working by himself.
Yeah, he doesn't like being in a team. Maybe perhaps he's scared that everybody else is gonna die, and he'll just feel like it was his fault, even if it wasn't. Could that be something, or is that too, or is that?
Oh yeah. What if there was a situation where he could have saved somebody, but he didn't have the force? So now he's like, he's like, I'm really limited in my powers. I can only do so much. I can't even, I can't help people. If I had the force, I could have helped this person.
That's a good backstory. Let's do that.
Yeah, kind of like, almost like how Malcolm Reynolds, he's constantly haunted by Serenity Valley.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know why not? We can't die because we're so damn pretty.
Why are you shooting me in front of the new folks?
I love Firefly, man. Goram!
Bunch of Goram heroes.
So I think he should be easily attacked by Ray, because Ray is all serious and he's just the opposite. He's sort of capricious and going, "Hey, relax, lady."
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Exactly. Kind of. What did we figure out any romantic connections in this yet?
No, not yet. That's the beauty of it.
Connections. Okay, cool. Because I like the idea of playing off of those things, but not having it like strict. Like the idea of like, oh, you know, they meet, they flirt a little bit, it doesn't really work out or whatever. They find out they don't like each other, that kind of thing. Like, but that's detail stuff. That's
yeah. All the details you figure out not by planning it out.
Yeah.
You do it because the character is like, oh, we've established this character in chapter 1 to be like this. Therefore, in chapter 2, they're going to do this. And in chapter 3, it happens naturally. So if we say, okay, now they're going to fight a dragon, what would this guy do? It's like, oh, shit, he's going to run away. Oh, he's going to charge it head on because he's crazy, or he's really strong, or he thinks he's strong. Like it should answer itself. So
Agreed.
So, if I understand correct, so is this when Ray and him meet up, or is this going to be later on in the story?
They're going to meet up. I would say we put them together really quickly at the start.
Okay.
And they either work together as a team, or they're like the person who asked for this help. They just hire everyone. Like it's one of those things where they say, okay, we need someone from someone from the temple, someone from the Mercs, someone from the Empire, someone from this or that, and they're all sort of working together because they're all peaceful. And then all of a sudden, the Empire ends up being the person who's causing this, and then that's when the seductress comes out and just kills people and takes stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So if I kind of understood what you said, it's basically almost like it's a trap, essentially, just to get like people who are highly skilled in these certain areas dead and kill them. Is that correct?
That's one way of putting it. It depends, because we could look at Finn, who decides to enact this plan to help get the plan stolen, and he's like, "Oh shit! What did I just do?" Because now he went under disguise to then say, "Okay, I'm going to give this." He gets the plans. He gives them off to the seductress. He's like, "Oh, I'm part of this. Oh crap! I have to redeem myself. What did I do?"
Okay. So basically, it's kind of almost like there's got to be something that's done this before that. I know that there's like a kind of an almost like there's probably just some place somewhere where it's basically like it's almost like is it like a job ad?
Yeah, it's like a job ad. It's like a general request for help that a company, like we're talking about an entire political force, but in terms of agency work, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but what ends up happening, let's say Audi or some big name says, okay, I want to sell a product in the next 2 months. So they don't just buy space from one agency, they buy it from like all of them. So they have like 10 million, 20 million those 2 months. They say, okay, I want you to do my website. I want you to do my email campaign. I want you to do billboards on this side of the city, blah, 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 blah. So it's like kind of, they're just throwing money at the wall and saying, hey, who has the best return for my investment? So in this case, it's like, we got to figure out who the hell stole these plans. This is kind of important. And and that was already, so when it gets introduced, it's like, boom, Finn already has the plans in his hand. He's like, oh shit, what do I do this thing? I've infiltrated this Republic barrack or whatever. Now I got to act like them, and then wait for the handoff. So the handoff comes in the second part, and that's when he realizes he's having second doubts. Like, wait, is this really a good thing? Because everyone's like freaking out. Should I do this? So he's kind of like a spy, just to hand off these plans to make it look normal. And then he realizes the Empire actually starts killing people. He's like, holy shit, this is not what I wanted to do. We were just trying to get some information out of the Republic so we could have a bartering chip with whatever planetary negotiation with real estate or whatever they wanted to do. And he was just part of that, and he wants to get out of it. And that's when he turns tail and he becomes one of the good guys.
Okay.
So plot is to hand over plans. That was very similar to episode 7, where we have map. You want to get that map to Leia, and he wants to do it in the safest way possible. That's not going to arouse suspicion. I never understood that with episode 7. It's just like, yeah, we got to get this map back to Leia. It's like, can you email it to her? Like, you don't have her contact information? Like, what's the problem?
Yeah. Is communication jammed or something?
Is it encrypted? Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as far as we're aware, like, they don't have the rest of the map. They just have that one piece.
The same with episode 9, where they have to have that Ethernet cable plugged into R2D2 to download it. It's like you couldn't put it on an encrypted public server. You couldn't do that. It's like, no, can't do that.
It's just, they had broadcasting in Rogue One.
Yeah.
basically emailed the thing. It's so funny. The technology has degraded over time.
Okay, so this, as you can see, makes things very clear. So we have Finn gets involved. He's already infiltrated. So we're in media res. He's already done the duty, getting the plans. And then boom, he's handing them over. And then this is where we figure out what the plan is next. So they have to go to the station to go stop the weapon from being used. And that's when they call in Luke. So Luke's get introduced here. Right there.
So is the wild card going to be the guy to reach out to him and say, "Hey, Dad, we need a little bit of help here"?
I think it should be that way, as well as with the government says, "Okay, I want you to call Luke. I want you to go get his help. We need his powers." It's like, okay, good. So he calls him up.
That makes sense.
So stop. Where's his plot? Sorry. Plot. Where is it? There it is. It's after this. Oh, it's right after the name. Okay. Plot. Stop the Empire.
The Emperor. We must
By
destroy
restoring
all
order.
those Republicans.
Must restore order.
Restore the order. Close the breach.
Yeah. I must thank you for that series because it inspired a book idea.
Really?
Yeah.
The ridiculousness of BioWare's plots.
Yeah, or at least like basically just having an actual like religious inquisition.
Oh, really? See, it doesn't take much to do some basic research. What is an inquisition? Oh, that's what that is. That's why we use the word. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Only the idea is that, well, I'll talk about it another time. And,
Yes, the stories of BioWare are vast and complicated.
yeah.
Okay. So Luke gets called in. This is where the scenario, or the heist, is like we call the heist scenario.
So there's a couple of heist setup plots that you can use. Actually, Brandon Sanderson talks about this, of how he was when he was writing Mistborn. It's basically a fantasy heist book where each person follows he kind of like found that there were two plot structures. There's either the Ocean's 11 or the what was it? What was the other one that he used?
Inception?
I don't think it was Inception. It was something older. It was like it might have been The Usual Suspects. I can't remember, but basically it's either the they set up a bunch of impossibilities they have to overcome, and then you set up all those obstacles, and then it turns out, okay, there was a plan put together all throughout the whole time, and you have a newbie to kind of explain things to.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the first step is they show you a plan and then they enact the plan, and the second way of doing it is they just start doing stuff, and then after that they reveal all the logic behind it, and the like, kind of how you have a murder mystery where Poirot at the end just reveals everything, whereas with the Ocean's 7 style, they plan it out and show you why they need Bob and Jeff and to do their thing.
Yeah, or another option is kind of like they create a plan and they just kind of address that we're going to do B to address D, C, A to address E, and stuff like that, and kind of figure out how each person is going to address each point of the plan or each part of the obstacles, and then they find out, oh, they've switched B and E to different things.
Right.
So,
like with Mission Impossible, when they're using all their gadgets, like, oh, it's not going to work, or it's malfunctioning. It's like, oh crap, our solution isn't going to work anymore, so I have to run out of there or attempt something else. Yeah, there's always some complication with all these details, which is great.
Right.
Okay, so we can keep going. This is pretty straightforward. We know exactly what's happening here. They get teamed up. So here's Finnegan.
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 There once was a man named Michael Finnegan. He had 10 whiskers on his chin again.
Okay, so stop weapon from firing. You notice I haven't done any shortcomings yet because that's all detail. That's all like they need a key to open a door. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in the plot yet. We just know what's our characters are going to be as we're going, because this is the nugget. This is the kernel of the story. We want to see this weakness get bigger and bigger and bigger until we get to the climax where it overloads the character's persona and they have to make a choice to become something else. So that's why we're doing it this way. And yeah, no, it's very straightforward. And then once we choose someone to write the chapter, they can fill in the shortcomings. Like, okay, I need this key for this door. Once you pass the door, oh, there's another door. I need another key, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not necessarily a series of rooms, although that could easily work. It's a series of public problems of the plot that everyone's aware of. So that's why I'm just saying shortcoming, and keeping it blank.
It's kind of like the minutia challenges rather than the big challenges. Is that correct?
Right. The problem with this is we're trying to tie in the guilt, which is a private shortcoming or a private problem, with the public problem. So with Rocky, he had to beef up. He had to go the distance to prove that he can do it in the ring. But he also had to personally figure that out with himself and his lifestyle, and go for training and with his girlfriend and all these other personal things until he finally got into the ring with what's his face. So it wasn't just physically being physically fit; it was being psychologically able to do the job and work with your new life that you want. That you're going for this whole lifestyle, which he pushed himself for. Okay, I got a super chat. Here's a nice break. Andrew Clark, I found that people often embody what they're seeking. People seeking acceptance are overly forgiving. People seeking honesty overly share. That's true.
Yeah.
I can see that. So here we have exactly the same scenario, and this could work totally fine. And since we're going to add a third character here, again, this is all straightforward stuff. Every character, everyone can see that there's a problem, because that's the point of a weakness. The point of the weakness is that the problem is only seen or available to those you're affecting and not to you. So you're completely unaware. It slowly becomes aware as the story progresses, and he goes, "Oh, I got to do something about that." Boom. So that's where things get interesting. But now we have friends attacking friends.
Yes,
which is the point here. And I don't know what we're gonna do with the hammer. He's just gonna be a big baddie, just beats the shit out of people.
I love it, Darth Vader, man.
Just boom, boom. That's all he does.
And if he says some shit, it should be like the most caveman meat-headed stuff you could think of.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where he's just kind of like, "I'm gonna destroy you."
Yeah, you can even say the shortcoming is the hammer. So,
yeah.
Like we can't stop this guy.
He's got no eloquence, and that as he gets more power in the form of power, social power and political power, when he takes over, that's when his shortcomings become really stark, because he's not a leader. He's just a dude that hits people, and maybe
we can
like, show. I think of him as like a jock. So whatever the characteristics of a dumb jock, what's the drawback? He's always angry. He's emotionally stunted, demands and is entitled to like adulation, short-tempered, all that.
It would be nice if Rey was traumatized, and she's constantly having this flashback of the hammer and the seductress at temple. He's like, "Oh my God, these people are back! Oh my God, these people are back!"
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Yeah,
she's like afraid of. She's like got to train extra hard because she's like looking at her arm and stuff. Like, oh, what if I lose the other one?
Yeah, I think that would make. I maybe this is just me, but I like the idea of having a concealed weapon inside of the mechanical arm. But that's just
Yes, exactly. I was thinking about that. What's that anime? Trigun.
Okay.
Vosh has like he starts off with this machine gun arm, and then it goes into like a cannon arm.
or like how sci-fi do we want it to go? Since I know an idea that's I've always liked is John Silver's arm in Treasure Planet.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of that.
Yeah.
He basically uses it to kind of become nearly anything. It's a gun, it's a sword, it's a walking stick, it's a bunch of little arms that you can use to crack eggs and stuff. It's a really interesting piece of tech that he's got, but I don't think we want to go that far.
I think a Swiss Army knife has like a few features, but not anything complicated. Nothing like it transforms, but like think of the wild card having all his tools. Like he can do all that. Ray would just have this one arm that could do this or this or this.
Yeah. Or like it just kind of holds a weapon, like it's she maybe like an example would be like she's got a lightsaber hilt inside of the forearm, and when she needs it, it'll just pop out and she can grab it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like a hidden blade. Like it's one of those. I don't know if you remember watching The Highlander on TV. There was a character called Mythos. He was like 5,000 years old, and he fought with this gladius sword, I think. But he always carried a dagger in his back. So whenever he was losing, all of a sudden he'd just whip out this dagger and stab a guy. And that was like his trump card. Always when he was losing, he would just like pull this thing out and stab a guy, be like, oh, and then he'd chop their heads off.
That makes sense.
So that could be a little piece of her cleverness, trying to outwit the seductress or whomever.
Yeah. Kind of taking advantage of kind of what might have been just like a disability.
Right.
Kind of improvising with it.
Right. So at this point, Ray loses her arm. Ray gains her arm. Ray has. Well, where's my writing? Ray. Where's my keyboard? Ray gains her robotic arm. Why isn't it popping up? That's strange.
The text is white, I think.
Oh, shit. Let's change it to gray. There we go. Okay, good. I don't need that. It's kind of redundant.
So, do we want to have Ray kind of like have a flawed weapon?
Okay. And the idea of the lore is that the more you use the metal, the better it gets. So she wouldn't be an intermediate. She'd be like a rookie to the next level of rookie. She should be fairly young.
Okay. So the metal is like does the metal, so what powers does the metal give her?
The actual weapon she's using?
Yeah.
It would be the same level of having a weapon that anyone else uses. Let's say the seductress's is probably a lot higher because she's a lot stronger, whereas the hammers is just raw power as opposed to manipulation. So it's making an edge more electrified, making it more strong, making it more potent. So his would just be this big, like you could even think of it as a hammer or as a staff, and his just hits really hard. Yeah. Whereas the seductress is lean and elegant,
like a rapier.
Yes, because I want her style of sword fighting to be like there's a specific Chinese sword fighting style that's all about like wrist hits. So it's like cutting off people's hands and stuff really quickly. It's all flare and that kind of stuff, very cloak and dagger-esque. And then the hammer would be really cool if he could have something that would be
more thuggish.
Well, I love I don't want to go too far away from the aesthetic that we're going for, but if anybody in the movie is going to have some sort of oversized anime weapon, it's got to be the hammer. And the hammer having an actual force hammer, I thought would be really cool. Like he can hit somebody, but like also use his force power through the hit to like extra hit them.
Let's make it the standard, like the thing that Luke would use, he would also use.
Oh, well, okay, then they would both have. I guess we got to have like swords, right?
Either swords or halberds, like big staffs. Like it would be like a standard Republic weapon, but only for the Jedi type people.
So this might be.
Swords are pretty standard. I know it's too cliche. Like we've already had.
Yeah, I know. That's why I wanted like a spear or a halberd or a staff, because it's like a weapon of war. Spears are traditionally, like if you're talking about medieval weapons, are the most easiest to use, the longest.
How about the standard thing is a one-handed sword, but he's got like a daikatana type weapon. Like he's got
giant sword.
Yeah, like a Zweihander or something. I thought it would be interesting if he had like a weapon that was blunt and it was all just about impact.
There's an Indian weapon. I believe it's called a. Let me look up Deadliest Warrior real quick.
I like the idea of staves being the Jedi's main weapon. That's kind of interesting. And then maybe it's more than just sword fighting. It's like extension of their powers through the weapons.
It could be a glaive, and
Yep.
that could be something.
A glaive could work.
Those are kind of weird.
There's also a weapon called a kanda. It's basically, it looks like almost like slightly shaved, rapidly expanding rectangle blade. That's basically just used for cutting. It's very big and unwieldy.
What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that like there's a sword that isn't often used called an Indian kanda.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. It's really about like classification, because like we have a situation where obviously we're gonna have swords and guns, and the reason why the swords or melee weapons are viable is because these force-powered users can use them.
It could be a blunt style sword, like it's just a piece of metal that he swings, and it looks like, oh, it's just a blunt piece of metal. Because he uses the force, this thing like breaks things apart like it's nothing. So it could just be a unique looking sort of glaive, but without the cut, like without the actual shape of a blade. So a blunt style weapon, hammer, club thing.
I like the good guy weapon being a staff, because there's something about a staff being used for more things than just it's a walking stick. It's also a weapon. It's also used for vaulting over things.
Okay, so would this be a Republic weapon or a Jedi weapon?
I think a Jedi weapon. Republic, like the thing for me about this is that guns are going to be the Republic weapons and guns are going to be the Imperial weapons. It's all about the Jedi versus Sith thing. Because the only reason why anybody would use a melee weapon at this point is that it gives them some sort of mystical quality. Like, why would you use a lightsaber in Star Wars instead of a gun? Because you can reflect blaster bolts, and because you have force powers. Otherwise, you wouldn't use them.
And in some cases, the kyber crystal inside of the lightsaber is supposed to enhance your force powers.
It resonates with the user. That's why you build one. That's why you choose a kyber crystal. Yeah. So it's this whole. That's kind of the thing I wanted, is that once you start using this one weapon, like that's the thing you're going to use the rest of your life. Like you sort of know that's the thing you're going to be using. Whether a guy uses a whip or a gun or whatever, it's like, oh, this is right for me. And I just need more practice with it. I need to use it more, and the metal will bend to my will more. Kind of like I'm trying to remember Planescape Torment. Dakan, he has that sword that was bending to his will. It would be very, very thin or very, very thick, or very light, or very dark. based on his moods. So
Hmm.
that was an interesting character to have in the story. But I don't think we have to go that fantasy to have the whole. Like, I don't want to go too like Dune-esque, because Dune is pretty high fantasy or high sci fantasy. So
Probably not Stormlight Archive either.
yeah, I'm just trying to make it as mundane as possible and have like stuff like starships and
Right.
guns and stuff be the focus.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of to keep it so it's special.
All I can think of is that the weapon of a Jedi or whatever, or a Sith, has to be an extension of their identity and their power.
Right.
It has to be an assistant. Otherwise, they could just use guns or something else.
Yeah, there's a whole point of using a Jedi weapon is that it's superior to a gun.
So I would think that it would be a melee weapon that could also do ranged damage, or like it's an electromagnetic weapon of some kind, because if you can manipulate it, then so like it could push people away, it could pull people towards you, you could hit people with it, and the reason why I like the hammer idea was that if imagine like I think about Warhammer 40K, they have these things called demon hammers, and they're like charged weapons, but they're hammers. So the force of the actual hammer hits, and then that force is actually multiplied by the fact that it's an energy weapon. So like I was thinking that if the force was able to be used, they also have force weapons, but if we had those kinds of force weapons where you could put your power into the weapon, and then whatever the weapon's form was, if it shoots a ranged thing or an AoE thing, or it's a melee effect, like it could shock people or whatever it is that the power set that we're using, that's how I would define it. I also think that weapons characterize individuals pretty well. Like if somebody carries a staff, they're obviously not going to be as aggressive as somebody that carries a spear, who's not going to be as like up close and personal as somebody with daggers. So I think that's about finding the right weapon for the right character, and then contextualizing that in the electromagnetic force situation.
Right. I think if we keep it big and bulky and long like an axe, but not an actual axe. Like think of a
like a scythe.
No, what's the hammer one that has the thing at the end? It's like it's not a halberd.
It's polearm?
It's like a polearm. It's one of those.
Billhook? Is it a billhook?
It's similar to a billhook. It's similar to, but it's got a
lucerne.
A lucerne. It's like a really long mace.
Think. Oh, I know what that thing is. It is a mace, isn't it? Yeah, it is a mace.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a staff mace.
It's not a morning star, but it's something that you would use to penetrate plate armor.
Yes.
Weird looking thing.
Do we want to have people like the Jedi to wear armor?
I don't see why not.
Yeah. A Ransur would be cool. That's
Ransur.
It's those like the little sai weapons for the Chinese weapons that have like the trident on the front. That's there's a pole weapon version of that called a Ransur, RANSE or SEUR. Fuck.
It's like a spear. I see what you're saying. Okay.
But what I was thinking of. I really wish I remember what it was called.
I like the idea of a technological weapon that looks sort of ordinary, but because it's charged up, it's really deadly, and that's something that you wouldn't expect.
So how about like a polearm? They kind of have this in Warhammer, where it's a big melee weapon that he uses two hands, but it can also be shooting things.
Oh, you mean like in Stargate with those Jaffa?
Yes.
All have those spears that pop out and it becomes a ranged weapon.
Matok staffs.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I need to watch all the stuff that you're suggesting. I haven't seen a lot of these.
It's an energy weapon.
Okay.
Yep, you're right. Matok, yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah,
like it's a really alien sort of, that's a weird looking thing. It does.
So you can hit people with that, but then it also can, you can sweep with it, you can stab with it, or you could shoot somebody with the energy thing, and the energy bullet in our thing could be from his power itself. And maybe the angrier he gets, the more powerful he gets.
So if they get separated from the weapon, do they lose their powers? Is that
No, it just is it's a focusing thing. It's like the whole point of the magic wand from wizardry, I'm pretty sure, is that it's like a thing that focuses the energy into the tip. But you could still like cast, let's say, if you had magical powers. Maybe I'm just making that up. But I don't like the idea of if you lose something, then you lose all the power. It just it feels like if you could, it's like a Gauss gun almost. It just focuses the energy.
Okay. So kind of similar to how in Wheel of Time, that people have natural magical abilities, but if they have something called like a Sa'angreal, they can boost their magic.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Very good point. Yeah.
Okay, so this is obviously a character design thing. What he represents visually, how he fights, that sort of thing. Pride. Oh yeah, to me this is what it's all about. All about the weaknesses.
Yeah, that's what kind of Brandon Sanderson talks about. That the magic system, in the magic system, the weaknesses are more interests. The weaknesses and limitations are more interesting than the powers in a lot of cases.
Did you hear that Literature Devil stream got taken down by YouTube?
You know what? What the hell is he doing? It's been taken down almost every morning. Like, what does he do? Does anyone know? Because I don't see how you could get taken down so much.
It's so weird. I don't get it.
I don't think he says anything that controversial aside from goof around.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
Some of us have a personal problem with him.
I've heard people say far worse, honestly. Like EFAP says more controversial things in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I can't say. I don't know. Okay, so with the Seductress, we could do all sorts of wonderful things. I want her to be more focused on the diplomatic side, but of course she could fight very well as well. So,
so do we? I was just curious. Do we want the weapons to kind of expand into weapons, or do we want the kind of like in the Shannara Chronicles, the guy just has a sword hilt, but it expands into a sword.
If you want to do stuff like manipulation with metal, great. That's no problem.
Okay. Because another option is just kind of summoning it from the ether, kind of like how in Way of Kings they're able to summon these enormous swords called shard blades out of the air if they're bonded to them.
Sorry, I missed the beginning of that. What did you say in the beginning?
I was just saying, has anybody here seen the Shannara Chronicles TV show? If so, I don't blame you. It's not good. But basically, it's basically this guy, even though the show is bad, this idea for the sword is actually really interesting. Basically, he just has a hilt, and then it just kind of magically flicks open, almost like a blind man's staff together until it reaches the hilt.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, that's kind of cool. I mean, and in terms of CGI, I don't remember that in the Shannara books, so I seem to misread that, or I don't know. But it didn't seem very like it came out of nowhere. It's like, he's a wizard, and all of a sudden he's a techno wizard. He's like, whoa, where did this come from? So I don't mind it because we're dealing with people who have these abilities to manipulate metal. And you only bring it out when you want. The problem is it has to be we have to go back to our magical metals that do this or that.
Right.
So our one metal is like it bleeds with you. The other one is would have to be highly manipulative. So let's just go back to conducts electricity will. Smutty would be highly malleable. Shapeable?
Malleable.
Malleable is good enough. So someone with force powers can do that. So if you want to do cool stuff like that, I would say no problem. The problem is, though, as soon as you start having manipulation of metals, nothing stopping a story from saying, "Hey, why can't we just throw this at a really high velocity with our mind?"
Fair
And you would have like minuscule droplets that can tear through a person's skull, and you would be like, "What the hell was that?"
Oh shit.
I was just thinking, like, in terms of like portability, like if he's got a big hammer, it kind of just like maybe he just has like a like the handle or something. And then
Right.
it
Like
expands.
I like the idea of the Empire outlawing all this use of the Force except for the Sith.
Mhm.
So they have this really big stranglehold on who has Force powers, and only they can do the cool stuff. So that's how I would see it. So it's like, yeah, the Sith do it, but no one else because it's very dangerous.
Mhm.
But it would have to be like expensive shit that,
Yeah.
very select, very hard to find. We just have Smuddium here and shit, like all these other silly names. But yeah, it would have to be another special metal
Mhm.
we'd have to introduce. And by the way, guys, I don't know where Lich Devil is. He's not on Discord, so I can't talk to him. If he's on Twitter, go ahead and bug him because I don't know where he is. He's usually pretty quick on Twitter, so I'm assuming his computer's not down, but his phone is probably okay.
Mm.
So yeah, if you want to do that for one of the bad guys, that'd be great. Oh, it would be really good if Luke could do it, and he turns his staff into a spear whenever he wants. But why would he need to?
Yeah. I like the idea of the broken staff.
Tri-staffs?
Yeah. That where it's like it's 3 parts and there's chains between
Yes.
2 of the parts. It'd be cool to have like a tech version of that. Like,
I see what you're saying. Okay, so
like
it's a normal staff, and you could break it apart. And
it could be like a walking stick, and then you could like it could telescope into a staff. I thought that would be interesting.
yeah, totally cool.
I thought visually it'd be really cool if there was a weapon that was like a sword, but it was invisible until it hit something, and then you could see it. So like if the guy's having a sword fight, you can't see. Like let's say it's like you're fighting a guy with this. He's swinging at you, and it looks like he's just swinging air. But then once his sword hits your sword, there's like a green flash or spark.
It's perfectly lined up for being shinium or shiny.
Yeah. So I just thought it would be really cool. Like invisible sword sounds really scary to defend against, and
That would be
visual image of it.
Weapons. You'd be perfect for that.
There you go. Yeah.
Invisible rapier. Holy shit, that'd be freaking scary.
And then it impacts, and then we could have different sparks. Like it sparks green or like purple or on different surfaces, and you're like, oh shit! And it could set fire to stuff. I don't know. Just awesome simplicity.
Well, if they have these bad guys have these crazy weapons, that'd be kind of deadly. So,
I like that idea of having unique weapons in this environment. That's something that Star Wars I felt like actually lacked a little bit of.
So would it be the blade that's invisible, or the entire sword?
Just the blade.
Okay, so it'd be kind of a rapier, swept, elegant rapier hilt, kind of like in Princess Bride.
Like the basket hilt, the rounded one. Or it could be something like more, I feel like more gothy. Like maybe it could be made out of like bone or something, or you know what I mean?
Some kind of like bone white metal that just looks creepy.
Like a vampire blade look. Like remember Oblivion Mehrunes Dagon? What the Mehrunes razor blade? What is that?
Mehrunes.
It's like a DLC weapon. I'll link it.
What's it called? Just so I kind of have a picture in my head.
I sent it in the chat.
Okay. Let me look it up.
Oh wow, that's pretty scary.
But like if it was like a little bit longer blade and it was silver, that kind of thing, sharp, evil.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, I'm just a shape, whatever. I don't know, but vibe and aesthetic. I like that sharpness.
I'm a big fan of the rapiers that they used in the Prince Caspian movie. I love that kind of sword.
Yeah, me too. I think that would work.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. You actually saw Prince Caspian. Not a whole lot of people have.
Okay, so we can go crazy details on character designs. Let's just finish this up. So Again, I'm not going to deal too much with the seductress. I think there's lots of ways we can play with her, and whoever's writing chapter 1 can do whatever they like. Wild card is kind of important, so let's bring him in, and he's going to be doing the. He is going to be doing the actual job of disabling the weapon or disabling the whatever.
So how many alien species do we want? Do we want kind of like a Mass Effect style, like giant number of aliens, or are we going to kind of keep them a little bit more humanoid?
Well, the good thing about Mass Effect is there isn't a large number, but they're all fleshed out. Like we know why they're there, who they are. Whereas with Star Wars, it's just random shit. So it depends how far you want to go. Do you want it to be a space opera? Then you go that route, right? You want some humanoid, you want some non-humanoid. I think 6 is a magic sort of.
Well, we haven't talked about like there could be something that George Lucas would do would be where's the robot? Where's the droid? Where's the comic relief animal character? Like we don't have a Chewbacca character yet. By the way, Literature Devil says he'll be on in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I talked to him on Twitter. That was very smart. But yeah, so like we could have more alien characters, and I also feel like that will come out with the environment. That's a detail more than it is a main, because even Star Wars is still about the human characters overall.
I was just wondering because the thought just occurred to me that possibly the seductress is a specific species of alien that emits pheromones.
Sounds fine. I mean, that's totally standard stuff. Yeah.
Say it again. That's the seductress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like she emits. Sure. That she emits like. Oh, go for it. Go ahead.
No, dude. The blueprint for this in my mind is the Darth Talon character from Star Wars.
Yeah, I think that.
But I don't know anything about the character. I just know about her look. Her look inspires all of that deviance in my mind, and I want that because I feel like that's an aspect, as I've said before, about the Force that hasn't been explored. So I like that. She can emit pheromones to seduce people. That's pretty classic sci-fi stuff.
Kind of like how the lady has it in Altered Carbon. She emits kind of pheromones that makes guys go crazy.
Yeah. She's a siren. That helps.
Yeah.
Okay, alien can emit pheromones.
And she could even use it in a fight to basically make people just not be able to think straight.
Okay, so what I really want to get to is the climax, because that's when everyone gets at least psychologically changed. And there's 4 ways to do it. There's a positive, negative, neutral, or a separate. So nothing happens, which we want to avoid. So we can deter the change, or we can make it good or bad. And I always like having good or bad, just because if you're going to deter it, you have to do then something with it. What
do you mean by deter it?
Meaning like, oh, I'm about to change. I know what I have to do. I'm going to run away now.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that. That's like in video games. That's my favorite thing to hate about Call of Duty, where it's like right as before you get the objective, they get away at the end of the level. And they're like, shucks, they got away another day, so we can have another level. I'm like, come on.
There's an opportunity to change, and it's like, nope, no need to. They're going to run away, or you're going to run away, or whatever. So,
and I would say, forget that. Sorry to interrupt, but I hate the deferment. I would rather go even further and say, have a change and then have another change. Maybe they get past being a good guy. Maybe they become neutral after that.
Yeah, the reason why I do it is because it can work, because it could be a stepping stone to the eventual change. So they say, oh, I'm scared. Yeah, but you really need to learn how to talk to people about your issues regarding your dad or whatever beat you when you were a kid. And then he finally gains the courage later to do that. So we understand the second step. That's a possibility. I would rather keep it simple and say good or bad. And so Rey would finally get over her sense of pride. With Finn, it's easy because I want him to get over his guilt. So, You just take this. You say he is no longer guilty. Is guilt, and it's changed into change into heroism. It could be fear. It could be any sort of feeling or ideal that he then decides to go for. So if he's feeling guilty over running away and being the only one alive, he's like, now I'm going to actually
Lay myself. No, go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, he's going to start redeeming himself. And in the second story, he may take that to an extreme. He'd be like, he throwing himself into the fire every time. It's like, dude, you know, you want to redeem yourself. Just calm down.
Kind of to learn moderation.
Yeah, you're sacrificing yourself too much there, buddy. So you can go all kinds of directions with redemption. And then finally, the third story finally figures it out. And boom. So,
Right. Yeah.
So courage, heroism, courage, basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
Ray, what can we do with Ray? This is going to be a little redundant because it's like, why is everyone changing so quickly? Because it seems pretty obvious on the page, but when you actually write it, everyone gets their moment to shine. So from pride to understanding to focus to humility. Whatever.
Another possibility could be working as a team. Maybe working as a team with maybe working with other people as a team, and not feeling like she has to do everything herself.
Yep. So group efforts, whatever you want to call that. Yeah, that's great. That's very simple stuff. Seductress gets. Let's go with negative. We don't have to go negative, but it's so simple because she's so a clear character. Her weakness is. What was her weakness? I can't remember. The weakness of seductress.
No weakness.
Lack of sympathy, lack of trust.
Trust, didn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're going off of that, it could be that she decides to do this on her own, and that could be possibly a way that she gets beaten, is that she's slightly overconfident.
Oh yeah, we're gonna see Ray beat the shit out of her, or not beat her up, but enough to her to get hurt. And we want the hammer to get hammered by Luke. So.
Oh yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Luke just fucking hits him once with a like a force push and pushes him like into the mountain, like 20 feet in.
Kind of like how in the Old Republic trailer, Bastila Shan slams Malgus into the rock.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. She catches a lightsaber in her hand. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, that's dumb. That is very dumb. I don't like that.
It's like, that just ruins everything.
Yeah, if you can stop it, it's like, what's the point? And then they bring it back in Rise of Skywalker. It's just, why?
Wait, no one catches a lightsaber in their hand, do they?
No.
Well, they stop a lightsaber with the Force, like using the Force on their arm, on their hand, I imagine.
I can't remember that. Oh, okay.
Well, you know when Rey and Kylo are fighting on the wreckage of the Death Star, like they'll stop each other's lightsaber with the Force.
Oh, okay. That's a bit. Why didn't they do that before? I was like, seems a very simple thing to do. Yeah.
It seems like that's the question with a lot of things.
I seem to remember, was it episode 3 where they did that?
They tried to force push each other, and then they were pushed back.
Okay.
When Anakin and Obi-Wan are kind of in the council room thing, and they just kind of they don't hit each other with lightsabers. They just kind of try and force push each other, and their hands are pretty close together. But then it's so equal that they get pushed back.
So here we have Seductress asks for help. Hammer doesn't help. So that's, she needs help. She doesn't get it.
So it's like a reaffirming that the only person I can depend on is me.
Exactly. So she becomes hardened. And we can give her a second weakness that's also attacked by, because Luke is going to come in and just dominate. So we can give another one. Weakness is, what was the other one? Let's go back. Lack of sympathy. So Luke comes in, weakness attack. Let me just keep going. Weakness attacked by Luke. So there we go. So Luke is going to teach her a lesson in sympathy. Because he's amazing, and she's like, "Oh my god, whatever you say, Luke."
And he lets her live. Do we want to let her live, or like he spares her deliberately?
Right. It could be a number of things, but it's pretty much she loses to him in any regard. So, yeah. So again, we don't really care. Again, I'm not even looking at the left side of the screen here. I just want to get these fleshed out. And these are all, the climax is going to be, like, this is kind of, I don't know if this is going to work at all, because the climax is usually for one character. And once you have these changes, that means all these scenes are building up to that. So when we see the weakness of Finn feeling guilty, it just gets more intense as each scene goes by. And then we finally get to the climax. It's like, boom, he has to make a choice. Boom, Rey has to make a choice. Boom, the Seductress has to make a choice, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like, oh, a lot of things are happening in this one chapter or this one act. So that's a bit strange just to count them all, but it depends on how you write it, of course. So I just want that. Who's ever doing chapter 1, I might have to do it. It's gonna come across as a lot of explosions going off character-wise. And we haven't really touched Leia.
No.
I'm gonna have her involved in the diplomatic side of things, and I'm assuming she's going to be attacking Finn because she's in charge or whatever. So she's telling her what to do, pushing his buttons, and maybe the Seductress attacked by Leia again, either in the climax or even after the climax. That could work too. So this is all done. Because Leia is just a diplomat. She's neither good nor evil. She was part of the Empire. And she doesn't need to change anymore. She just needs to be attacked. Okay. So this is like the Seductress and the Hammer are really the focus here because they're just these big, powerful forces of villainous. And they are what they're causing all of our people here to weaken. We have to develop the wild card more just because he's a bit, he's a wild card. We're not sure exactly what to do with him. So that's going to be the major challenge, I think, for any writer. And the rest is all good brainstorming stuff. The rest is all how to make this all connect. The denouement or the resolution is where we build up the second story or what's coming next. So we have a shortcoming that connects everything in. And we all know what that's going to be. So it's all across the board. It should all be the same. And that's it. I mean, this is really what I wanted to flesh out today with you guys to figure this out. But the rest is all normal brainstorming. So I think we could plan out chapter 3 next. And then do the same technique for the scenes. And then chapter 2 next. So we could do this today. We could do this next week. I don't know what you guys feel like doing because I could probably start writing right now with this information. But it's really up to you guys. I think Literature should probably be involved. I'm going to talk to you guys later anyway. But
yeah,
I'm pretty happy with this.
I think we could go over it a little
I
bit
like
more
it. I
later,
like it
but
too.
that'll be over in redrafting. It's a little difficult without Literature Devil as well because he's such a strong voice for this.
Yeah, his character for Finn was really focused, so I wanted him to.
Yeah,
He's
and
not
I
a
didn't
cute,
want
understanding character.
to. I didn't want to go anywhere that I felt like all of us together would need to go over some stuff. But I think
Yes,
we did a
because
really good
as
job.
soon as we take him out, he's going to be like, "Oh, I wish I was here for that."
So when we get back to it, we can just go over what we did quickly and then make a couple adjustments and then keep going with it. And it'll be a little bit more focused, I think.
Yes, because after this is done, we then have to do chapter 3, which sort of makes stuff make sense. Like, what does this mean? What
Yeah.
is this all going toward?
Right.
And we really need to figure that out because there's so many moving parts now. And I know I could probably start chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and go from there. But I want this to be clear. I want everyone in input, and I want it to be with as many ideas from everyone involved, just to be clear. Because I don't want, oh, we should have done this. Oh, we should have done that. It's like, no. We talked about it. Everyone's clear. That sort of thing. So, thanks, guys, for tuning in. I'm going to chat to these two gentlemen later. But thanks for your comments and your jokes in the chat. I appreciate it. And we'll definitely do this next week, Sunday.
Yeah.
All right,
guys.
Talk to you later.